lay out sort of the path through the criminal justice system in that way, I mean, you can pinpoint, you can look at each of those situations and say, well, okay, we can reform this way, we can reform this way. I'm sort of curious what your position is in terms of, reform versus more sort of radical politics like, prison abolition, police abolition, right? From, tweaking the performance of police departments and training, body cameras, community policing, like all the things that get raised, like the Obama administration sort of used this discourse during, its period about how to, create better practices to produce better anti-racist results.
Yep.
And then of course, you have people like Ruthie Gilmore and Angela Davis and others that say, well, no, we need to like rethink the system itself, right? We need to talk about abolition. Where do you come down in thinking about how to fix the racial disparities and other disparities that emerge in the system?
Yeah, so I'm very much indebted to and aligned with Ruthie and Angela and the abolitionist tradition, and I think the summer of 2020 showed us why, right? Right, it showed us. I was an abolitionist before the summer of 2020, and happy to talk more about how I came to that path. But I think, to me, like what was so powerful about the protests after the murders of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor and so many others was that they took place in the context of, in the world made by the failure of the Obama reforms. Right. So we've tried police body cameras. We've tried more diversity training. All these other things, they're, that kind of reformist approach and that kind of reformist impulse has been around for a long time. And, let 1,000 flowers bloom, right? Like, let's all share ideas. Let's see what ideas stick. That's fine. But I think what, to me, like the power of defund the police and why I think that slogan and that demand was it's necessary and so important, is that it showed that those kinds of reforms that give more resources to police didn't work, right? George Floyd is still dead. Freddie Gray is still dead. Breonna Taylor is still dead. And dead in these horrific ways for no reason. And so all of that points to, we need to do something else, right? Ruthie Gilmore talks about abolition means you only need to change one thing, and that's everything. I think that spirit is really exactly right? And I think that borrows from the original abolitionists in the 18th and 19th century, the slavery abolitionists, right? Which wasn't about how do we treat enslaved people nicer. It was, this whole thing has got to go, right? This whole thing is a problem. And as long as we're trying to regulate, how many lashes can you use to punish a slave, or where and when can you sell a person into slavery, we're missing the point. And so I think, you could have been an abolitionist for a long time. You could have watched that video of a man kneeling on another man's neck for 9 minutes and said, you know what, this is not a problem that's going to be solved with more training. This is not a problem that's going to be solved with regulating use of force. Right? I mean, some of the reform solutions or suggestions that were proposed in response to 2020 wouldn't have even saved the lives of George Floyd. Right. So I think the abolitionist critique, to me, is about world making, right? It's about imagining the world that we want to live in, and it's a recognition that the expansion of police power, the expansion of incarceration, the very existence of mass incarceration arises not only alongside, but because of a growth in inequality. And so if instead of providing jobs and healthcare and social affirming and necessary resources to people, instead of doing that, we got more police and more prisons and to govern and mitigate a rising inequality.
Right. So the police are. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So abolition is to say, not just everything stays the same, but let's get rid of police. where everything stays the same and let's get rid of prisons. Abolition says we have police in prisons and we have them in such violence and ferocity because everything is because of the inequality that exists in society. And so we need to fight that inequality. We need to transform that inequality. And there's no sort of grand change that doesn't involve a grand change in the realm of the criminal punishment system.